Good afternoon, everybody, but it could be also a good morning or a good evening, depending on the time zone you're connected from. Welcome to the third episode of the 2022 Università IUM Masterclass series, Communication Trends and Strategies for a Sustainable Future. My name is Alberto Zannetti, and today I represent the International Mobility and Recruitment Office at Università IUM. The topic of today's masterclass is influencers and new consumers. The focus on this masterclass is, of course, on our bachelor's degree in corporate communication and public relations, which is currently one of the most requested courses outside of Italy in our academic offer. The masterclass, as you know, is designed to give you a glimpse of what it's like being a student enrolled in our university and give you also information about the leading institution in Italy for communication studies, which is our university. It is my pleasure to welcome all the members of the audience for joining us today for this masterclass, and it is also my great pleasure to introduce Professor Mariangela Polesana and Professor Simonetta Buffo, faculty members at the Department of Communication, Arts and Media in our university. Just a few words more before giving the floor to the masterclass proper. I will just explain the format of this event. You will be following a masterclass as if you were an enrolled student in our university. After the masterclass, there will be a Q&A session. I will be selecting questions from the live chat on YouTube, and please engage in the live chat. You are welcome to do so. And after the Q&A session, there will be a short presentation about the university, its academic offer, its services to the students. So stay with us until the very end of the event, and thank you again for joining us. Professors, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Mariangela Polesana, and I teach the first year course of Sociology of Consumption and Corporate Culture for the Bachelor Degree program in Corporate Communication and Public Relations. I'd like now to introduce you to this course, which is divided in two parts. The first part is devoted to an overview of the sociological theories, perspective, and research on consumer culture and analysis of the main topics related to consumption. And this is my part. The next part, the second part of the course, is related to ethnographic analysis of contemporary phenomenon, green influencers, and their relationship with brands. This part will be presented, will be introduced by Professor Buffo in a few minutes after my introduction. So let's start talking about consumption and consumer society. So to understand what characterizes today's consumer society, one has to keep in mind a series of phenomena which have developed over a long period of time at different at different speeds and in different places. What I mean is that the first traces of consumer society date back to the 14th century, and they are linked not only to political or economic conditions, but also to cultural and social conditions. For example, through objects, people assert in this period their power in society, they establish alliances, they create specific bonds, and so on. So you can see in this slide also two pictures. One picture is related to a sort of toolbox because it's a metaphor that refers to the use you can do of sociological theories. What I mean is that theories can be considered as a sort of toolbox from which tools can be used to interpret, to study, and to understand social phenomenon. And at the same time, we can also say that theories, sociological theories, can be considered as a pair of glasses, as you can see in this picture, as a pair of glasses through which you can view current consumption phenomena. So there is always this strong link between practice and theory, and this is this is the real meaning of our course. First of all, I think it's important to define what consumption is exactly. We have to go beyond the moralistic point of view in which consumption means waste and superfluous purchases. We have to understand that consumption cannot be reduced to the mere use of goods until they are worn out. To the contrary, we can argue, according to the sociologist Max Weber, who is one of the main sociologists, and his theories are very important to understand society and to understand the role of consumption in our society today. According to this sociologist, according to Max Weber, we can argue that consumption is a social action imbued with meaning. So it's a tool through which individuals defines themselves and defines their own identity. So individuals build their identities through objects, and these objects help them to adhere to certain lifestyles, as in these pictures. So they help them to adhere to certain lifestyles and to relate to others and to the world. So the symbolic meaning of goods and their value for people is very important to relate to the world in which people live. And we can also say that today consumption is our main experiential area. So we are all consumers, and we consume things every single day. We consume clothes, foods, technology, but we consume at the same time information, advertising, entertainment, news. So we are surrounded by products and we interact with products. And these products are tools, as I said before, to build our identities, and not only our identities, but also the relationships with others. And I want also to underline the fact that consumption is, we can say, has also an ethical side. Yes, here you can see the title of this slide. Consumption is our main experiential area. This is true. As I said before, today is the area through which we experience every kind of reality. But we can say, so we can also say that it has also an ethical side. What I mean is that through consumption, we can also take a stand in our society as far as social issues are concerned. So, for example, we can decide to buy products only from farmers' market in order to instead rather than from large scale retail traders. And in this way, we can support little farmers. Or we can decide to buy only bulk products in order to avoid polluting to avoid polluting the environment with packaging. And so, as you can see, consumption is also an area related to our ethical decisions. And we can also say that consumption evolves according to the zeitgeist. But what is the zeitgeist? The zeitgeist is the spirit of the time, and the zeitgeist is made of economic, social, cultural, political changes. It has to do with this kind of changes. And so consumption too changes, and its new identity is related to the specific time when consumption happens. So we can say that consumption is a complex economic, social, cultural set of practices interconnected with all the most important phenomena which have come to make up contemporary Western society. So, what I mean is that consumption is related to the spread of market economies, to the development of globalization, to the creation and evolution of national traditions, to the rapid progression of technological and media innovations, and so on. And another important aspect we have to consider when we talk about our society and when we talk about consumption is the revolution, that was related to the development of technology. Uh, Here we can see two books. The first one was written by the sociologist, Canadian sociologist Marshall McLuhan in the 60s. It's a really famous book, and this book refers to the power of an important innovation. This important innovation is the birth of printing. So the subtitle of this book is the typographic man, the making of the typographic man, and it's related to the birth of a new kind of man with the birth of printing. So when we talk about technology, we don't have to talk only about we cannot talk about only about the material aspects of this innovation, but we have also to talk about the impact on the consciousness of human beings that is related to the advent of this technology. So we in this case these two kinds of different technologies, that is printing and internet, has give birth to two different kinds of men, two different kinds of human beings. And so we have to stress the fact that this innovation, for example, the printing was responsible for the rationalization of society, for the birth of bureaucracy, and so it gave birth to a new kind of world. And in the same way, the advent of internet resulted in a globalized world, in space and time compressions, and so on. So the popular and commercial diffusion of the internet has been extraordinary, enabling changes in every area of human activity and society. What I mean that is that it gave birth to new systems of communication, new businesses, new way of teaching, new way of learning, new communities, new media and sources of information, new forms of political and cultural expression. So we cannot talk about our society, and we cannot obviously even talk about consumption if we don't consider this kind of changes and the impact they have on society, on human beings, and also on consumption. So this word is a real interesting word that expresses in a very clear way the fact that today we live our lives in hybrid spaces. These hybrid spaces result from the combination of online and offline lives. And these spaces are dominated by platforms. platforms that are economic players, and they are at the same time social interactors who have become hegemonic in web spaces, both as technological structures and as environment. Platforms are environment that host economic and social relationships. And this gives form to a new type of information, to a new type of communication, to a new type of communication ecosystem. And so these platforms mediate between those who produce content and those who produce services and those who consume them. So when we think about platforms, we cannot think about them as if they were neutral spaces. They are economic spaces. And when we live and when we interact in these spaces, we have to take into account also the constraints, and the possibilities related to this kind of spaces. So platforms designs are technically binding and define the expressive tools available to users so that they can create an identity for an audience. So the platforms designs are characterized by a series of constraints and a series of possibilities of usage that shape sociability and that shape our way of being and our way of relating to others. So, brands brands, people, and all we can say all the inhabitants of the society offline live also in this space, and they have to consider this kind of limits, as I said before, this kind of constraints, and this kind of possibility of usage to create and to manage their identities. If we talk about influencers, we have to stress the fact that unlike the celebrity generations before them, influencers are the first directly self-selected, self-elected stars whose success rests solely on their symbiotic relationship with those who follow them. And so we can say that the universe of influencers is a universe that is not as unconventional as it seems. First of all, we can say that influencers are the real protagonists. They are the lead players of online spaces, and their identities are a clear manifestation of a consumer society. Influencers are surrounded by objects, they are surrounded by products, they interact with their communities through this kind of products. And so we can also say that their universe only appears to be free from the logic of capitalism. That's why we can say that influencers are always striving to catch the attention of companies in order to sign contracts to promote their brands. And so that's why when we talk about consumption, when we talk about the theories of consumption, when we talk about consumer society, we have to talk also about this new phenomenon that is strongly linked to consumption and to the birth of new kinds of identities that depend on the relations with the relation with the objects, on the relation with the goods, with products, with brands. And so we can say that influencers act as gatekeepers, gatekeepers between the market and the end consumer, celebrating their power to reinterpret goods according to their personal style, So I decided to choose this example, the example of Chiara, of the influencer, Italian influencer, but I can say this Italian influencer is famous worldwide. She has 28 million of followers. As you can see in these pictures, she uses goods in her everyday life. And so these goods become clothed with meaning and emotional content. That's why I say that they act as gatekeepers, because goods, in order to become important for people and to reach, to become desirable for people, goods have to reach a symbolic meaning. They have to express a symbolic meaning for people. And so this is what we want to investigate also during our course. We don't want to limit ourselves to the to the phenomena that are much more, we can say, visible, but we want to go deeper. We want to elaborate on this kind of phenomena and to study them using different kind, as I said at the beginning of my at the beginning of this lesson, sorry, this is the beginning of this lesson, we want to use a different pair of glasses in order to look at this phenomena with deeper understanding. So I have just finished my part, my introduction, and I'm pleased to leave the floor to my colleague, Professor Simonetta Buffo. So Simonetta, if you want to go on with your part.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Polesana. I'm going on starting from the ending point of your presentation. Indeed, as Professor Palesana introduced you before, we are going to develop the second point, the ethnographic analysis of a contemporary phenomenon, green influencers and their relationship with brands. Indeed, I like to share with you the organization of this second part, because it will be divided in two moments. The first one is a moment dedicated to lectures, and the second one it's a workshop where students are really active and they are participating with their projects. Indeed, in the first moment, we'll try to understand better the influencers phenomenon, starting from the points that Professor Polesana shared with us in her presentation, and of course during our course, during her classes. We'll start from those points to understand the relationship of influencers and brands in the consumption society. The second moment is focused on the analysis, is focused on your work, your projects. Indeed, students have to realize a comparative analysis among different kinds of influencers and their relationship with the brands. The starting point is a specific type of influencer, green influencers, that these influencers share news or information or something like this with their followers about sustainability. We'll try to understand how these influencers organize their storytelling and how they produce engagement. Step by step, the exploration. First of all, the starting question is, why are we talking about influencer inside the course of sociology of consumption? What do they represent? I think that Professor Polesana told you some tools. I mean, in short, of course, but few tools to understand, to give an answer to this question. But now we are underlining, we are adopting, I mean, a perspective that is a little bit alternative, no? Because I like to debate with you this point. You know that up to 70s, people bought products, but then in the starting from the 80s, I mean, products were not so important because people started to buy intangible values, intangibles, something that is intangible, but it's so important for the new consumers. In postmodern society, companies don't produce product, but consumers. So it means that uh, in postmodern society, the Consumption Act needs to be celebrated and enriched by a symbolic meaning. So this action, the consumption action, is enriched by new levels of meaning. So consumers now are conferring a sense to their purchases, a social, cultural, historical sense. And this approach to the consumption is also a way to understand the role of brands in our society. Indeed, brands are just solving this kind of role. Brands build up their uniqueness, their authenticity through communication actions, giving a meaning that is, I mean, beyond the product. I like to share with you an example about a really popular brand that is Nike, a worldwide popular brand, I think. You know that Nike can be, can be identified just by its payoff. Just do it. If I read "just do it" immediately, I think to this brand, because "just do it" is really really connotative sign. Excuse me. And we have also some data supporting this statement. As you can see here, this is the result of a research that Interbrand shares with us each year about the best global brands. Again, in 2020, Nike was among the first 10 brands in this list. But if you consider the new generation, Generation Z, your generation, and also the generation of the new consumers, those people that brands are looking for, well, guys, here Nike is at the position number 7. So Nike is one of the most popular brand that we can consider. Well, what about the communication actions that Nike shares with the customers? Of course, brand narration. The something, it's not a commercial, but this is a video. This image is also a campaign for the press. It could be something really similar to the old advertising campaign. because it's a storytelling, but everything is different. As you can see in this image, you can see the product. And also the headline, the claim, the main claim is far away from product features. As you can read, the claim is believe in something, even if it means sacrifice everything. And then, of course, just do it. So, a story that is really engaging, of course. Uh, it's rich of meaning, as well as the swoosh that uh, referred to the goddess Nike or Nike, the name of this goddess. But Nike is not only a video, it's not only the typical storytelling of brands as we know. Nike is also the result of a strong action activated with its OBC, online brand community. I'm talking about its followers. As you can read, Nike has a really high number of followers on the main important social media. First of all, Instagram, 196 million. And then the other ones that you can read by yourself. But then also the number of hashtags you can find, it's over 100 million. Excuse me for this picture, because there is just a problem with the net, I think. But then there are also other important tools used by Nike, and of course also influencers. Ronaldo, in 2016, Ronaldo was paid $1 billion by Nike for being its influencer. Of course, Ronaldo is not the typical influencer because he is a great champion, we know. But we know also that he has a strong power as an influencer online. Indeed, as you can read here, Ronaldo's social media presence alone was estimated to have generated 474 million in media value for Nike in 1 year, in 2016. Indeed, Nike can potentially recapture their 1 billion investment in Ronaldo in just 2 years. So this data for us is really important, because we know that these celebrities or these influencers, online influencer, have a really strong power. You can't find any other advertisement campaigns that can produce the same result in such a short time. Excuse me. Well, so you understand why we are exploring this phenomenon. It is an important tool for brands, for companies. Influencer, of course, the name comes from the traditional, definition of Cambridge Dictionary, someone who affects or changes the way other people behave. But for us, influencer is a person who is paid by a company to show and describe its products and services on social media. And this is the definition that Influencer Market Hub gives us. I find it one of the most precise definition that we can find. Influencers on social media are people who have built a reputation for their knowledge and expertise on a specific topic. I think that this aspect is really important considering our goal. because this definition is underlining one specific aspect, the topic. Influencers can influence people, followers, talking about something. They are credible. They are really, really credible. And of course, that's why also we are going to understand this phenomenon for the sustainability. Starting from what? Starting from data. We are exploring data that We Are Social and Hootsuite. These two companies share with us each year. You can find this report online. This is the digital report of 2022. Here, I chose a few slides that could be helpful for us. First of all, the number of people that is constantly online. We see that the internet users are about 5 billion people. 5 billion internet users in the last year. And these people spent about 8 hours a day online. So guys, if you think about your daily life, we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to do other kind of humans activities. So it means that internet is our best partner. So, of course, social media has a strong, an important role, because as you can read here in this slide, on social media, people spend 2 hours and a half. 2 hours and a half, if you consider that social media are kind of entertainment, you understand that this kind of entertainment is the main one in our life in these last days. And so on social media, we find mostly young people, but not only them. There is an interesting distribution among different ages. But why so influencer can work so well on social media? Influencers are a typical creation, I think, of these context, of these platforms. They live on social media. That's why I underlined the difference between Ronaldo, that is a champion, also in his offline life. The influencers live just online because their credibility among their followers. But why they can work so well? Well, here there is one research that I found that could be interesting because it underlines the theme of authenticity. Their storytelling, influencer storytelling, is perceived as something more authentic than other storytelling coming from other sources. So we can say that influencers now are probably the most credible figures online. And then, of course, they could be a really interesting solution to reach customers. So, as you can read here, influencer is that common person with an aura of immediacy and authenticity, user-generated content transformed in brand-related UGC. So the relationship between brands and influencer can start. Their credibility is something that brands need, and they can't find by themselves. That's why this relationship is so strong. And so we are not surprised that the investment on influencers by brands is increasing. $10 billion at the end of 2020. The projection for 2021 was by Fashion Network, as you can read here, was by 15 billions. But here, Harvard Business Review tells us that in 2021, I think, but now I can't read exactly the day because it's under this logo, was about 16.4 billion. So, and this tool is used by different brands, from Coca-Cola, so a mass market product, to your luxury brand, luxury product. Excuse me, guys. According to Forbes, influencers are now like brands, and indeed many influencers are now producing their own products, their own line, their own brands. As Chiara Ferragni here with her collection for the school, for the beach, for the mountain, for different situations. So the growing value of the industry can be seen in the number of new platforms and influencer marketing focused agency. Excuse me. in only 4 years, since 2015 to 2019, the number of influencers agencies was passed from 190 to 1,120. I think that there are few kinds of business working in a so good way in these years. So influencers now are persuading, influencing, and seducing people. And you know that influencer is not, excuse me, guys, is not just one person in front of the desktop. Influencer is an activity where followers have a relationship with the followers, but behind him or behind her, there are other professionals. That's why we can talk about a new industry, the influencers industry. Even though the language adopted by influencer doesn't have doesn't show any kind of novelty. These are two images about campaigns, and you can notice, of course, that they are two beautiful women. They are also, engaging. They are seductive. The body language is clear. They are seducing us. Here, the famous influencer in this image has an attitude that is really similar to the previous ones. Followers can be defined because of their numbers. Like here, you can see different categories of influencers depending on their number of followers. We start with celebrities as well, like Ronaldo that we saw at the beginning. achieving also nano influencers. Of course, if brands use an influencer with a large number of followers, they can achieve a great audience. But micro influencers, for example, are developing an highest level of engagement, because this kind of influencer creates a strong relationship with their followers, giving answer, creating debate, and so on. So the influencer phenomenon is really multi-phased, characterized by the number of followers, as I told you, but also the quality of contents, the level of prestige, age, location, gender, industry, interest, hobby. So it could be a really precise phenomenon for a brand because it achieves precise kinds of audience. Well, guys, we are at the last part of this second part of the course, the workshop. The workshop is the part of the work dedicated to your analysis. Indeed, we'll explore sustainability from a specific perspective. We explore sustainability in fashion market, and we will analyze the debate that influencers create about this theme online, analyzing storytelling and engagement. During this laboratory, indeed, students improve their skills in an analysis with an ethnographic approach. So considering the different posts and different followers. This is the driven question for us, which is the kind of storytelling and the kind of engagement that green influencers are producing, and which type of partnership is created with brands. I mean that in group, students will analyze these 3 different categories of influencer, considering, as I told you before, posts and comments for each of them. They are an example for you. Here we have the typical fashion influencer here on the left. In the middle, we have casual and chic for the green influencer. On the right, we have the unconventional influencer. Again, in the fashion market, 3 different women talking about a specific theme, showing themselves in a precise way, in a specific way, and of course creating engagement with their followers, with their communities. That's it. Thank you very much. Excuse me for my situation, but in Milan it's a little bit cold, and I'm not so good. Excuse me, guys. I hope that you appreciate, and so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this insightful masterclass. I was following in the background as if I was a student myself. So I was taking notes, and at the same time I was having a look at the live broadcast on YouTube. For the moment, I have to say that probably the presentation was so clear that for the moment we don't have any questions in the live chat on YouTube. But if you allow me to do so, I would like to ask a couple of questions coming from my own masterclass experience, because as I was in the background, I took notes and I had a couple of things that I would like to share with you, to ask to both of you. So my first question would be, referring to the very specific niche of luxury brands. So we are talking about very high-end brands. From a marketing perspective, do you think there is a risk for these brands to lose a bit of exclusiveness in their reputation, if in case they rely too much on influencer marketing? And the second part of this question would be, how can you combine influencer marketing with the strive towards customization, which is normally a feature related to the high-end brands? So the needs for customers to customize their own piece of goods purchased from these very high-end brands. So this would be my first question to both of you. It is open to both of you.
But I think that this risk is a real risk. It can occur, but I think it's the same risk companies in some way faced when they decided to link their their brand to some I can say old testimonial, like it happened in the past for it was not a luxury brand, it was a sport brand. I think, for example, about Nike, and the fact that Nike linked its brand to Michael Jordan, but during the 90s, I think Jordan was part of was engaged in a scandal, and but this was managed by Nike in a very clever way. Yes, you are right. It can happen. I think that today luxury brands maybe are following a strategy through which they use a lot of influencers in some way. They don't link themselves strongly to one person, to one single, for example, to one single influencer. If you think about Chiara Ferragni, for example, because as I said before, she is very famous worldwide, so this example can be very clear, in my opinion. If you think about her, she is at the same time she advertises, Prada, Dior, Vuitton, and so on. So these brands link their grief to many influencers. Maybe this is a strategy in order to avoid to be in some way to be linked only to one single, as you said before, to one single person. So if something like you said before can happen, they in some way are can be declared, I don't know how to say, maybe free from this kind of engagement, because they choose a lot of influencers. And I think they choose a lot of influencers also because I can say as we think, because I know my colleague Professor Buffo agree with me. They are used as a sort of tool of entertainment, because they use products during their everyday lives, and these products are the protagonists of a lot of stories, for example, and these stories are an example of entertainment. And so this is this is very useful for brands, because in this way they are rich of symbolic meanings the symbolic meanings that are that depend on the fact that these influencers, as I said before, act as a sort of gatekeepers. They are very close to normal people, to average people, and so I think the difference between the present and the past is related to this massive use of influencers, and the fact that influencers are a tool of entertainment. I don't know if Professor Buffo agree with me, and I know if I've been clear.
Yes, I agree with Professor Polesana. I totally agree with Professor Polesana. The influencers, I mean, are used as a tool in network, creating a system of influencer and achieving different kinds of audience. And surely, I think that, of course, social media are now the most important industry of entertainment in terms of business. Social media now is more important than Hollywood, for example, in America, and YouTubers are more famous than Hollywoodian stars for young people like Generation Z, according to some data that we have. So social media are entertainment, and influencers that live online on the social media, they are entertainment too. And so that's I think that's the perspective that we can assume to analyze, to observe this phenomenon. In my opinion, there is also another aspect connected to luxury market in a specific way, because as Cafferer wrote in his book Luxury Strategy, the first one and the second one, the first one in 2010, the second one in 2016 on luxury. Luxury products have to be dreamed by many people, even though luxury products can be bought by few people. But luxury needs to be dreamed. So influencers, again, are a tool to feed this dream, this luxury dream. And so I think that it could be an explanation.
Well, thank you very much for your answers. It is very, very clear. The second question that I have, and I thought about this while I was listening to the masterclass, it's a very generic question, probably a bit banal as well. As you were explaining the key features of influencer marketing, I was thinking about the possible next steps for this kind of marketing strategy. So, would you agree that this kind of model can be replicated, for example, in the metaverse, which is a very popular, very hot topic of debate nowadays? Do you think that this kind of marketing strategy with influencers can work also in this metaverse, or in the metaverses, because there could be more than one according to latest reports?
In my opinion, I think that the answer could be just one. Yes. Yes. Just because we know that there are many virtual influencers now living on social media, and they are obtaining a greater result in terms of number of followers. They are really appreciated, even though people knows that they are not real. They are just avatar or something like this. So they belong to the digital world, as well as metaverso is a digital world. So I think that we are living in this digital dimension, and so of course, for some for the future, I mean, we can wait for something like this, also in the metaverse dimension.
Professor Polesana, I don't know if you want to add something.
I agree with Professor Buffo. I think it's now it's hard to make a forecast as far as a metaverse is concerned. I don't know, because in my mind I have also the experience of a Second Life, and Second Life was was not a successful world. At the beginning, it seemed very rich of possible businesses and possible new kind of online lives and so on. But it ended, as we know, it ended in nothing. So I at the moment I'm not able to imagine if the metaverse will be successful or not. I'm sure, as Professor Buffo said before, that yes, I agree with Professor Buffo. Sorry, because as she said before, today influencers occupy a very important role in also in the imaginary of people, because Gen Z is really acquainted with this kind of entertainment, and they really trust them. They need this kind of guides, because today we live in a very complex period, in a period where we don't have any point of reference, any real point of reference. So these new guides are in some way very similar to us, but at the same time they are celebrities. And so the fact that people live their life in the real society, but at the same time they try to find an escape in this digital world where they can use themselves, this sort of avatar, and they can come close to their stars and so on. I think it's it's an experience that can continue in time. Quindi, so maybe it's possible that the metaverse could be successful, because when Second Life was born, it was a different social period, and we were not so used to technologies, and we didn't live as today in this hybrid environment. And also the pandemic period helped this transition to the digitalization. So maybe this is the right period for the birth of this new reality, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more, and thank you for bringing up the memories about Second Life, because I remember that period very
Yeah,
well. And yeah, it was the real deal back in, like, I think in 2004, 2005.
yeah. I also
But
I remember that I also immediately bought a lot of books about Second Life, because
yes,
I thought that it was a really new frontier and so on, but it wasn't. so
it
that's
didn't
why,
end well.
yeah,
It didn't end well, probably because we were lacking the
yeah,
technology level that
yeah.
we have today.
Yeah, today we have the technological background. We can say we really are. We really have an hybrid identity today. That's why before in the presentation I stressed the fact that we are that today we live in the internet galaxy, because we are very different people from the past, also as far as our consciousness is concerned, our way of perceiving reality, of living our lives, of living our relationships, of living the time and space, and all these new aspects of our lives are very important when we consider also this new, protagonist of our consumer society. But as I said before, this consumer society is not related only to the real life, to the offline life, but this consumer society characterizes also the universe that lives inside this new technological world, because this unfortunately, this world is not free from the cynical logic of the capital. So the capitalism is also the imaginary that feed our imaginary today, because it is the logic that is dominant in the internet world.
Absolutely.
So we have to keep in mind that in some way we have this migration of some of the characteristic of consumer society inside a new world. So obviously they are not the same, but the logic is more or less the same. And so also the influencers, for example, as I said before, are all the time, strive all the time to catch the attention of the brands, to touch the attention of advertising and so on, because they need to monetize their presence inside the internet. And at the same time, they are pushed by the platforms to do this. That's what I meant when I said before that at the same time these platforms gave us affordances that help us, that give us new possibilities of expressions, but at the same time they are constraints for us, because they oblige us to follow specific paths, and that oblige us to showcase all the time our life.
Professor Buffo, you wanted to add something? Please. I'm sorry, you are currently on mute.
Excuse me. No, again, I agree with Professor Polesana, of course. These platforms have an important role in managing these audience, different audience, different communities through influencers. And influencers, of course, are those figures that, look for brands supporting them, but they are also working for these platforms. So the influencers are just a product of these platforms. And so they can be a real person or not. It doesn't matter. The result is pretty the same. Influencers were born for products, for brands, looking for brands to support them. So this is the profile that they have, and different communities are profiled by these platforms to generate kinds of debate, kinds of exchange, kinds of sharing that could be useful, first of all, for platforms. It's themselves.
Well, it's fascinating for sure, because if I think of being influenced in my purchases by an avatar or a artificial intelligence generated influencer, that would be a bit strange from my point of view, but still it can be the future.
It's really strange, but by now we are the result of numbers. We are, each of us is calculated by an algorithm that decides what we like, what we don't, what we want to follow, what we need, and so on. So the perspective is this one.
I couldn't agree more. Well, at the moment, we don't have new comments on the live chat on YouTube. So if you allow me to steal the stage for just a couple of minutes, a few minutes, I would like to share a few slides about Università Ulm and our academic offer for the audience. So I'm going to share my screen. And my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So a few words about our university, our institutions offering this masterclass today. The university was established in 1968, originally as a language and translation school, but very soon the university was able to establish itself as a center of excellence for communication studies, tourism and hospitality, new media, and the promotion of cultural heritage. Nowadays, our university is widely regarded as the #1 communication school in the country. The university is organized into 3 faculties: the Faculty of Communication, the Faculty of Interpreting and Translation, and the Faculty of Arts and Tourism. It's a private university with very strong relations with the job market. A few numbers to give you an idea of the dimension of the institution. We are classified as a medium-sized university, as a specialized niche university. 7,000 students with a very good teacher-to-student ratio, 1 out of 23. 25% of international students in degree courses held in English. And overall, the international population on campus is around 6.5%. 7 buildings in the campus, over a 65,000 square meters dedicated area, and also a dedicated subway station in front of the university on the Green Line of the metro. We are based in Southwest Milan, and if you choose to become a student in our university, you will be able to experience all the features that you can see listed on screen. You will be visiting the heritage sites in Milan. Milan has more than 70 museums and 1 World UNESCO heritage site, that is the Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. You will be attending events, including fashion shows, because Milan is the capital of fashion in Southern Europe. But generally speaking, you will be able to experience the fine living of a vibrant city, a multicultural city, which is also the financial capital of Italy. And being based in Lombardy, our city is always a good choice for a study abroad experience. First of all, because Lombardy is one of the wealthiest regions in the European Union, according to the GDP per capita index. Secondly, because you will find plenty of job opportunities for graduates. And third, because Lombardy is the most welcoming region in Italy by far for international students thanks to the very large number of accommodation solutions available. In addition, if you are coming from outside the European Union, if you graduate from our university, like any other university in Italy, you can have a 12-month permit of stay extension in order to continue with your studies or find a job. Speaking about our international dimension, today we are speaking to an international public with this masterclass. But our international dimension is not just limited to the fact that we have more than 150 partner universities all around the globe. We are an Erasmus program university. So if you enroll, you can benefit from a semester or an entire year of a study experience in a partner university. We can offer you guidance. We have a counseling service active throughout the year, also in English language, peer tutoring and buddy system for our prospective students, a wide range of services for disabled, and, as I mentioned at the beginning of the slideshow, our career office is currently one of the best career services in Italy. We can offer you more than 1,400 partner companies, and these companies are able to provide internships, research projects, learning projects, and also placement opportunities to our graduates. Every year, we organize events with professionals and companies, either on campus or outside the campus. And as a student, you can get the chance to be a part-time student worker and find a job as a collaborator in one of our university offices, including our office, the International Mobility and Recruitment Office. A few statistics, as you can see, according to this survey carried out in 2021 by Alma Laurea, which is a consortium directly linked to the Italian Ministry of Education, 78% of the graduates with the Master of Science from our university was able to find a job within a year after graduation ceremony, against a national average of 68%, so actually 10 points better than the national average. As you can see on screen, across the board, more than 90% of the people interviewed for this survey declared that they were fully satisfied with the overall Università Ulm experience. Our campus is probably one of the superstars of our university. It is a unique case in Milan and in Italy as well, if you allow me to say that. Because unlike many other campuses that we have in Italy, you never need to leave the campus in order to jump from one class to the next, because all the buildings, all the services are included in the same area. So you come in the morning, you do your activities, and you leave in the evening without having to jump on the public transportations or being stuck in traffic in downtown Milan. We are just 10 minutes away from Duomo and the city center by subway. As you already know, we have a subway station in front of the university. 3 food venues on campus, 1 public park at the heart of the university, a fitness center, a lot of services, including a bank and 2 libraries. But believe me, every room, every place that you need to visit is within walking distance. I'm going to show you a few pictures. This is one of the 3 food venues that I was mentioning. This is the main one. This is Ulm Fitness Center. It was open 1 year ago. It is open to both students and teaching staff. This is building number 1 of the university. This is the place where the majority of classes are going to be held if you enroll in the bachelor's degree of corporate communication and public relations. And this, by the way, is also the place where our office is located on the 4th floor. And last but not least, this is the public park I was mentioning. It is called by the students the Rose Garden because it's blossoming with roses in spring, and it's probably the students' favorite place during the good season. Now, let's jump to the second part of this presentation. Let's talk about academics, the subjects that we teach, the courses that we have. At undergraduate level, we have a bachelor's degree completely held in English, which was also linked to today's masterclass, Corporate Communication and Public Relations. And then we have 7 programs held in Italian in case you have proficiency of Italian as a second language, or in case you are half Italian, you live abroad, but you have Italian origins. You can take a screenshot of the following slides if you want to keep it as a record of our academic offer. At master's degree level, we have 2 programs completely held in English: strategic communication, hospitality, and tourism management. Both of them are double degrees, which means that you can have a second year option in one of our partner universities. And at the end of the program, you can get an equivalent title from the partner university. In addition, we can offer 5 programs held in Italian language, which somehow are the natural continuation of what we have at undergraduate level. The admission requirements for the 3-year bachelor's degrees include a high school diploma with at least 12 years of schooling. If the national examination in order to access higher education level is necessary in your country, we will request it as well. B2 language proficiency in English or in Italian if you're choosing a course held in Italian. The application can be done entirely online. There is no need to come to Milan, even for the admission test in many cases. Don't worry if you are not in possession of an official certificate, because we are able to offer you an internal English language assessment test offered by our university. Prospective students with 11 years of schooling coming from a K11 system have 2 options. You can either follow a foundation course in Italy or attend a supplementary year at university in your home country with all exams from the first year approved. The requirements for the 2-year master's degrees are slightly different. Of course, you need to have a bachelor's degree in a related field. So broadly speaking, cross majors are not allowed if you're coming from a completely different background, like, for example, medicine or biology, biotechnology, earth science. It would be quite difficult, to be honest, to be selected to our school because, as I said before, we are a communication school. We teach tourism and hospitality, media, and so we teach different subjects. So if you lack the core subjects from your bachelor's degree, it will be a bit difficult to be selected, to be admitted. B2 language proficiency level is requested, either in English or in Italian. In some selected courses, C1 level is requested. Good knowledge, motivation, aptitude, which are likely to be assessed during an online live interview with the course coordinator. Here on screen, you have a snapshot of the academic year timeline. What is like a typical academic year in our university, starting in September for the long end programs. Bachelor's and 2-year master's degrees have 1 intake only. The applications are open. They are open now, and they will be open until the end of May 2023. But allow me to say that the sooner you apply, the better it is, because all of our programs have a limited number of places available with restricted access. So if you are thinking of applying to our university, hurry up and get your document ready. How much does it cost to join our university? For the 3-year bachelor's degrees, The tuition fee is 8,500 euros roughly per year. The tuition fee is divided into 3 installments. The first installment is to be paid when you perform, when you complete your enrollment. This can be done online. The second installment is to be paid in December, and the third one is due in March of the following year. In your case, if you are applying for September 2023, that will be March 2024. For the 2-year master's degrees, the tuition fee is 9,900 per year, again divided into 3 installments. The good news is that we can offer financial support to international students. Our university is offering a very competitive tuition fee reduction program with reductions up to 100% on a selected list of programs based on merit requirements and timing as well. If you have very good grades from your high school and you would like to be admitted in our bachelor's degree, for example, if you have at least 70% of the final grade, you could be declared eligible for a 50% tuition fee reduction. As I said, for a selected list of programs, we have reductions up to 100%. These reductions can be renewed for the second year and the third year of your studies if you are attending a bachelor, depending on your academic standings. So you will have to perform very well during your first year. The DSU Regional Scholarship is another opportunity, an extra opportunity. These scholarships are offered by the local government of Lombardy with grants up to 4,500 per year, accommodation and free meal included if available, and if it is included in the offer made by the university. These scholarships are given according to merit and family income criteria, so slightly different criteria from the tuition fee reductions. Can be combined with the tuition fee reductions, but it is very important to stress that the DSU scholarship should be considered, always considered, not to be the go-to option in order to fund your studies, because the results for the DSU scholarships also usually come in late November. So by that date, you would have to pay the first installment of the tuition fee nevertheless. We reached the end of this brief presentation, this introduction of the university. If you have any further questions, you can stay in touch with us and contact our international admission office at admission@iolm.it. I'm just popping up to YouTube, and we do have some comments from Vietnam. I'm just reading aloud. NGA is just leaving a comment, and he or she is thanking you, both of you, for the masterclass. I'm a viewer from Vietnam. Today's class helped me have a better idea of the importance of influencers. I believe influencer is not a new concept if we consider iconic celebrities such as Princess Diana with her Dior handbag before social media became universal. It seems to be a broad topic. I will continue to learn more after your masterclass today. Thank you for an insightful live class. Thank you, NGA, for leaving this comment. It's not a question proper, but it's a comment, and we are very happy to receive it. So I guess it's almost time for final remarks. I would like, on behalf of our office, the International Mobility Office, I would like to thank the audience for joining today's masterclass. And thank you, Professor Polesana, Professor Buffo, for giving this insightful speech and for sharing this presentation. I believe it was really inspirational for our prospective students interested in joining our university. If you would like to add something before wrapping up the session, please do so.
I'd like to thank you to all the audience, and to thank you, Zanetti, because of your real clear presentation, because of your questions that gave us the opportunity to elaborate on these concepts. So thank you very much. And I don't know. I hope to see some of our followers of today lesson at your university.
Thank you very much. Today was just an introduction of the course, and then of this laboratory, of this workshop. For us, sharing it with you was a pleasure. So thank you very much for your attention and your participation.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for joining. And this was the third and last episode of this masterclass series. We will be back in spring, probably next year, with another round of masterclasses. And we are going live in February with an international open day online. So stay tuned and follow our social media for further information. And don't forget to get in touch with our international admission office in case you are interested in joining our university. Checking out from Milan. Thank you very much again, and hope to see you soon on campus. Goodbye.
Goodbye.